I find I gravitate towards sitcoms. Firstly, because I'm often sick and they're easy viewing. And secondly, because they tend to speak to me. Like, I know it's probably confirmation bias, but whatever is happening, whatever I'm going through, I will put on a random sitcom or a random episode. Like, it'll be playing reruns on TV, and they'll just pick the one that's exactly the thing I'm going through. And it happened again. But I don't, really want to go into that. So I want to talk about the mechanics of the episode instead. It's weird to me, it's put in perspective, season 2 wraps up, that I feel like I was right about adding Roz, in that, she has connection with Eve and conflict with David. She just naturally fits. Like, Roz was such an organic addition to the group. And at the same time, I'm really stuck because it does mean there's an extra character. We've already got so many. This show, if I think it started with one mistake, is that it has too many characters. And I think I've said this in several videos now, but I feel like with each episode, I'm ironing it out. Frasier had 5 characters, at maximum. That the radio station people as well, but they would be bit parts here and there. This show effectively has 7 main characters, if you include Roz. I've done the count several times now, but I keep losing track because that's really the thing. They're obviously going to have more time to develop the longer it goes. But it really shows that adding Roz meant that David and Eve don't really have a dynamic much, but Roz in between them really adds something. I want to say the same for Patricia Heaton's character with Freddie and Alan. But it's like I'm already going, there was this plot here and that plot here, and Frasier's just off with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend has nothing to do with the rest of the show. So it's nice to give Frasier a relationship, and it's also nice to have Patricia Heaton here. Like, I'm a big fan of Everybody Else Raymond. It's nice to see her in something again. But for me, there's a line here of, it's one thing to want the actress in the show, and another thing to go, hey, it's already kind of cluttered, and then add in another character. When that's what I was suggesting that with Roz, because it wasn't adding an extra character so much as adding a better link to the dynamics we already have. So I still need Roz and Olivia to have more of a relationship, and I don't think Alan knows Roz at all. I can't remember if we've seen them chat, but when you have an ensemble size cast, and then they try to have these party episodes, and when this one opened, I thought I liked the title sequence. That was a really nice touch. But then they're instantly talking about how they need to help Alan with his Christmas thing, and Roz wants to help Frasier, so I get that instantly. But then Olivia doesn't like Alan at all, but she wants to help because obligation of the plot. And it instantly felt like Eve, Frasier asked Eve, are you coming to the party? And Eve was like, of course. And I was like, okay, Eve and Freddie aren't dating. Does Eve actually know and care about this group? Because when she said, oh, it's time to spend with our loved ones, and I sort of just, I do scratch my head a little bit and ask, does Eve love these people? Does Olivia and Eve anything? So it's sort of, I get that they gravitate around Frasier, so if Frasier's holding a party, they all attend. But it's kind of the same issue I had with Olivia's thing, where Olivia lied to them all to get them to a party that they all then just tolerate because they have to. And I'm enjoying the characters and the acting and the energy, but this one really put in perspective that they haven't really bonded in a way that when Alan's having a tough time, I get why, just out of pure sympathy, they want to help and they want to help Frasier. But there's sort of a wall up for me where they don't know Alan that well. They don't know why this lady doesn't want to speak to him. We don't know why this lady doesn't want to speak to him. So I just sort of found myself going, what did he do? And like, who knows? And maybe, like they said, that he's made up with the rest of his children, so maybe it's a thing that just she was extra struggling with. What, I don't know. But that's really the thing. We're not giving enough context to fully understand what situation Alan is in. And then I don't fully buy that everyone else would jump on board and just defend him and just want to fix it. But that's what the plot's about, so they all just do. And so it's again, one of those things where every criticism will always come with so I hope they develop that, and then it won't be as much of an issue anymore. But something like adding Patricia Heaton in, I keep wanting to say Deborah, it's just easier to say. But adding in this new relationship character when we're the same amount of episodes in as season 1 of Frasier had, and season 1 of Frasier only had to contend with 5 characters. So it had 22 episodes to develop Roz, Niles, Daphne, Martin, and Frasier. And on top of that, gave them all very clear dynamics so they could develop them as groups and play with those groups and bounce around. And so even if it was like an episode of just Frasier and Roz, you at least felt like it was a Frasier and Roz episode, and there was a good focus on that. Here, it's very clear they already had to split up into group of three, and whatever Frasier's doing. And Frasier's meeting this new character. And, well, where do we put his girlfriend? Well, his girlfriend's going to chat to Alan and Freddie. Okay, well, that's good. They're going to develop that relationship. But they haven't already been developing the relationships they already have. It feels like it's already cluttered. And I don't know, like, from what I've seen so far, again, I hope they develop it. I'm not advocating for cutting the characters. I'm just concerned that they're adding more of them. And the reason I recommend adding Roz, despite the fact there would be more characters, is it does actually balance out the characters that were being left out. That where the relationships weren't being developed, they were separating into very clear splinters, and Roz kind of rebinds that circle. Whereas Patricia Heaton exists entirely outside that circle and doesn't seem to like doing anything they've done so far. Like, she didn't want to come to the murder mystery thing. She didn't want to come to the Christmas thing. And she's like, oh yeah, Frasier's too much. And I'm like, yeah, I get they like to build up that Frasier's ego is both his strength and weakness. He likes to make big things, and that can be as off-putting as it is caring. But, like, I kind of agree with her, and I don't understand why she's here. Like, both on a meta level and as a character. I don't get why she likes Frasier. She said, oh, it's because he's different. She doesn't have to care as much. But, like, all of that felt like a backhanded compliment. Well, this is so dumb. I'm glad this is dumb, because it's so much easier to just do dumb things. Like, I feel like as a viewer, I don't like her, and I've seen, like, the Reddit pages that people are liking her. So I'm like, I'm not advocating for just cutting and scrapping it, because anything can be a good idea. Just, I'm not sure it was the best idea when we're 2 seasons in, less episodes, and we're only one season of original Frasier in. We have more characters to contend with. We're adding this new character who has no connection. Like, I I don't know if I consider her being disinterested bonding. Like, she's not really causing or creating conflicts. She's not really connecting the group up. Like, they're not finding common ground. They're not fighting over differences. She's just there, and I don't like. She's Patricia Heaton is funny, but I don't find the character that funny. And I would have said that about almost any. It's always finding their feet and figuring out what they want to do with things. So I'm always happy to roll with it and see where it ends up. But I just feel like Roz instantly contributed some really organic connection and conflict. Patricia Heaton feels like, what's her character's name? Because I don't want to say Patricia Heaton's getting in the way. Her performance is good. Just the character feels like just an extra bump in the road. We already have a cluttered, contrived situation going on where it's already a wrestle to get characters to organically have plots with each other. Like, it's all good to have an Olivia Allen plot, but try to get Olivia to spend time with any other character, and suddenly she has to lock them in a room. So I feel like the show is butting heads with its own concept and construction because they have all these pieces and they don't have the characterization and the foundations to make it an easy job for the writers to move the pieces around without having to really force it. So you add Patricia Heaton into that, and it doesn't make that job easier, it makes it harder. I wish I had a really snappy way to condense that into one clear thing, but it's cluttered. I'm rolling with the show. I think it's getting better. But, again, original Frasier was Frasier needs to get along with his family, and everyone else had some connection to that. That's where I felt Roz was the most outsider, but Roz still instantly had a dynamic with Martin and with Niles and with Daphne. So if you put Roz and Niles into a situation together, it's just very easy to already know what kind of dynamic they're going to have, and you can build off that. Whereas you put, say, Patricia Heaton and Alan together, Freddie in that I can see because she's sort of sporty, but then, I don't feel like that's enough. You can't just say they both like sports, so they get along. It's I don't know. Partially it is I'm just not enjoying watching their relationship because it does seem to be like Frasier's I'm doing Frasier stuff. And the show is Frasier, and that's what we're watching for. And she's just like, oh, that sounds boring. Okay, you don't have to be here. You know what I mean? It's not... I don't think it's adding anything. And I'm more concerned about that. If this show had started off with Frasier dating her, and it was a thing of Freddie doesn't like her and he's trying to bond with Freddie again, or they had from the get-go just said it's Frasier, Patricia Heaton, Eve, and Freddie, and they had spent the last 2 seasons building that, then I probably would have much less issue because I'd have the same season 1 issues of, I don't know what they're going to do with this, but they could have created something. They could have said that Patricia Heaton really gets along with Eve, whereas right now I don't know if she does. I don't think, they both have similar jobs, but I just get the sense she's just going to organically hate everybody. I don't think she's organically going to get along with the group. And maybe you can have an arc about how she loosens up and does, but to what end? Because then you have I was watching Rose naturally get along with the David and Eve, and then they cut to Patricia Heaton. I went, oh, hang on. So they've added both of them. Like, we already had Olivia, Alan. Even my brain seizes up when I'm trying to remember all the characters. Because it's like Olivia and Alan, Freddie and Eve, David, Alice in this episode, Roz, Patricia Heaton. And like, again, it's fine to add new characters for the episode, given like their once-offs and whatnot. But like, if God help me, if they start adding Alan's daughter as a main cast as well, just please develop the characters you have before developing more. Because you don't have time. You don't have time for this. I'm just, it really bugged me and concerned me when they added both Patricia Heaton and Roz. Because for a second there I thought, okay, what they've done is they've added Patricia Heaton where I thought Roz should have gone. And then I proceeded to watch Patricia Heaton not have an organic relationship with all the people Roz does. So it's sort of like, I keep seeing people say they need to bring Niles back. And I'm like, if you want it to just be literally the show as before, sure. But that's not going to, if you add Niles now, I'm going to have the same issue. Niles might instantly have an organic relationship with David and Alan, maybe. But like, and Freddie, so like, maybe partially old characters are already going to have a history with the new characters. So there is something to that. But it really just is a character count. Because like, you add Niles on top of all this, it's just going to become the Frasier and Niles show, which I think a lot of people want. But it's not, you're going to end up with, well, then what do you do with Alan? And Alan does something with Olivia. And okay, what do we do with Eve? Well, Eve does something with Freddie. Okay, what do we do with David? Like, again, David's getting better. I know I'm ranting now, but David's, I love the role they've given David now. I understand the use of the, like, C-plot character cut to, but again, it's better he has people to bounce off. If it was just cutting to David makes a Christmas house, and the joke is he spends all this time off screen doing that, but that was it, I'd be like, yeah, like, that's a funny joke, but David's really being left out. Whereas it shows that David being really anal and Roz being really casual is a good pairing. Eve being creative and David being very like literal and very by the book, it again, good pairing. So like, you can grab any two characters and say, what a good episode that makes. Whereas I take Patricia Heaton's character and she knows nobody and she gets along with nobody, and then Frasier has to spend time with her instead of developing with the 5-6 characters we already have, and it just becomes a headache to deal with. I just don't know. I don't know if the foundations are a good idea here. Like, it's getting better, but it's getting better on a like minutia joke telling, like emotional perspective. But it's just constantly having to sideline characters or give them contrived roles of like, we're going to help fix Alan. What do we do with the rest of the cast? They just come along. Why? Because they want to help. Why? And it maybe comes back again to character motivations. But like, that's why I think I enjoy Olivia's relationship with David, Alan, and Frasier. But like, try putting her and Freddie together, and her only motivation is like insecurity, making herself look good or feel good. And I don't know if there's much you can do with that. Same with like, they've developed Alan in that he used to just be snide remarks, but now it's snide remarks because his family won't talk to him. But you get to an episode like this and I go, well, yeah, his family won't talk to him. He's nothing but snide remarks. I don't know. I always end with just, I don't know, because what it is it's a lot of pieces. And I just think the writers have made it hard for themselves. Or whoever made the decision to say, there's going to be 7+ characters, and we're going to add a new one who is actively disinterested, so not proactively has their own motivation, but just works at a bar they hang out at, and they have to hang out there because Frasier wants to do a thing. And the rest of the characters don't really have motivations of their own. They just have to be there because we want the cast to have things to do. And it'd be an easier job to find them things to do if there were organic relationships and characters and plots and things. So I've done a lot of complaining with this episode and the last one, I think. And that's not, I was sitting here enjoying them, and it meant something to me on a personal level. But come season 3, they're really going to have to do something about the Cluttered issue. Or I'm the only one who has this problem. And that's okay. It's hard. Rewatching the old Frasier, there are things I pick up and go, okay, yeah, no, I've got rose-tinted glasses there. And like season 4, ends surprisingly on just a bit of a, like Frasier goes off to meet some lady, and the cliffhanger is, where did he go on the plane or whatever? It's like, yeah. So, like, it doesn't need to be a big finale or anything. It's not, like, comparing it to the old Frasier, it's more, I watched Frasier rose-tinted glasses when I was younger. So, if I watched it episode by episode with gaps in between and doing literal think pieces on every episode, I am bound to be more critical. So old Frasier probably would have had similar things, but old Frasier would have had that in season 1. And then even by season 1, it was hitting the ground running. And by season 2, it didn't have this issue. Like, there were always going to be iffy episodes of padding, 22 episodes per season, but it just didn't have this issue of, like, where do we put so-and-so? Because, you have Frasier and Roz together, Niles and Daphne together, Niles and Martin together, because it's playing on mute. So, like the boat cruise episode, right? You have Niles and Martin chatting, you have Roz and Frasier chatting, and then Daphne just doesn't have to be in that one. Whereas here it's like, what do we do with them? And then they have to be there in some capacity. Or they're not in it, but it's more noticeable because you still have like a party of 6, and then one character's just off doing something for no apparent reason. So, and again, even if it's like Daphne doesn't come for whatever reason, it's still like you understand why Niles, Roz, and Martin all want to come on a cruise with Frasier because Frasier's got some event on, and like Roz works with him and they're his family. So like his closest worker and his family, I get it. But then like Eve is neither. And like I get it if she's like, oh, I'm dating Freddie, it's part of my family, but I don't want them to force that just to have Eve have more connection with Frasier. It's, and like David goes to the school, but we almost never see that. And then Alan and Olivia hang out with Freddie. Like, really think about that. Freddie wants to make up with his dad, but he hangs out with his workmates. Why? I'm getting more and more frustrated because I think it's just, firstly, I'm passionate about this stuff, and the more I think about it, the more messy it is, and the harder it is to fix. I think the frustration comes from me being like, I study this stuff, and I feel like I should have the solution, but I don't. Because I don't know what to do with this mess. Just chuck a bunch of characters at me. Some of them have had clear relationships, some of them have had really good focus episodes, and we've just had a whole season's worth now, but we've had a whole season's worth of developing 7+ characters. And now there's more, and the new ones have even less going on than the old ones did when season 1 kicked off. So I'm probably spinning around in circles at this point. I enjoy it as a viewer experience, as, easy viewing for sitcoms. But it's gonna just start spinning its wheels if it doesn't have a clearer purpose in mind. Because again, if the original series was Frasier getting along with his family, and Roz was the hardest one to bring in, but they made it like a really close work relationship, and they found organic ways really quickly, like that her and Niles have a difficult banter, and they don't like each other very much, and that's fine. That's their dynamic. And Roz and Daphne like defend each other when Niles and Frasier don't understand like women's issues and stuff. Like they had instant chemistry, and the actors clearly do in this show, but the characters aren't designed with that organic process in mind. Like, yeah, David has an organic relationship with almost everybody, and yet he's constantly the C story, which is fine, but it's telling. Like, yeah. I think I need them to smooth out what the direction is for this show. That doesn't necessarily mean cutting characters, but it does mean taking the characters that have nothing to do with each other and finding organic reasons why all these people spend time together. And it might mean leaning more on party episodes, which I know are fan favorites of the original Frasier, and nothing should be too hard leaned on. Don't go to anything just because it's the original popular thing. But sooner or later, they're just going to have a problem with why are this many people who have no reason to spend time with each other apart from Frasier said so, why are they spending time together? And why is that then going to be fun for the viewer? Because, again, a Christmas episode when Alan needs his family back, really good concept. Really, really good. But you then face the question of, why is Olivia here? Why is Freddie going so out of his way to help Alan? Like, I liked where they connected that and said, well, Freddie wants to help the girl because he understands how she feels. But, again, Freddie's solution was just, I went through that and he just kept pushing. So, even though you said Alan forced it too much, just let him. I don't know. Yeah, it just, I don't know. I think that's what's holding it back is what I want to say. Like, it's not bad. The episode is fun. And the last few episodes have been really good. It's been improving. And I want to focus on those improvements. But I think that's why I'm honing in on this issue. Is that I've seen them in some places further develop how these characters get along. Like, initially, Alan and Olivia had nothing to do with anybody. And then they said, well, David goes to the school. Let's put David and Alan together a bunch. And that's really worked for me. But it's sort of, I've then taken that and gone, yes, do that with the other characters. Because it's not enough to just say David hangs out with Roz and Eve because Alan and Olivia are busy. Again, they have a better dynamic than I would say Patricia Heaton would have done in that situation. But it's more just the amount you're juggling. It's cluttered. It's cluttered. It's kind of messy. I'm enjoying it as a fan, but it's messy. And I'm seeing, the better it gets, the more I'm seeing where the mess remains. Like, you know, the more we clean up, the more we patch the cracks, the more the few cracks that remain are the more noticeable. But they're big cracks. And I feel like they've inserted a new crack by giving Frasier a girlfriend who has no interest in being here. Yeah, I've spun my wheels and I'm stuck on this. So hyperfocus. Bye.